A massive round of applause for Sophie.
Thank you. Hello. Hello? Hi! Yeah, you can tell how small children, right? So it is an absolute delight to be here. The title of my speech, I've fiddled with it. It's more really about your power in the media. Because what I want to be thinking about is how together we can change the world to reflect the very, very many brilliant women in it. So the first thing to say is, yes, we can change the world. I'm sure many of you are having those conversations. I'm sure many of you are having those debates, particularly post-Me Too, about how to do that. I'm sure you've all run through lists of what you want, and then possibly lists of what you think might actually be achievable. So the first thing to say is, now is not the time to compromise. Now is not the time to play by the rules, because we didn't write the rules, they did. And the rules tell us that if we don't have what we need, then it's our fault. I became an activist because I was really tired of being told that not having equal rights was my fault. The only thing you need to do, Sophie, to counter those centuries of legislative, societal, and cultural oppression is try harder. Okay, so try harder. Let's consider for a moment just how hard we try. As women, we go through an education system that tells us we must be small. I personally have always struggled with that. We have to be quiet. We have to be studious, while also being beautiful and thin. We strive for perfection in our exam results, and then in our college results, and then we go into our first job, and somehow we're paid less and overlooked in meetings. So then we're urged to read books and go on training courses about how not to be overlooked in meetings. We miss the promotion. We miss the pay rise that we know we deserved and we know that we earned. So then we buy those DVDs teaching us how to ask better. We have children, and then we are scolded for making self-indulgent lifestyle choices. So then we do all the training on how to balance being a mother with work, all while reading the books on how to be the best mothers we can be. But still, we're told we're not doing any of it well enough. So then we learn to bake. Because that's the thing that makes it better, right? Or we take up yoga, or we do both, or we jog, or we run marathons to counter the stress of not being a good enough cook, while reading books on how not to upset our partners because we're spending too much time working, raising children, baking, running, and not enough time keeping thin. The net result? Generations of knackered women trying to figure out why we haven't managed amongst ourselves to close the pay gap, to stop ourselves being harassed, in between having the perfect marriage, a blockbuster IPO, and being elected to public office. The idea that each one of you, as an individual woman, is responsible for the barriers to your equality is the biggest lie we are told. But there is another lie that we tell ourselves. And that is that someone's coming to the rescue. Nobody's coming to the rescue. Nobody's coming to the rescue. If the people in charge wanted to make space for us, they would have done it by now. So it's on us. How liberating! We don't have to ask for permission. So now we can just get on and do it. So, speaking as a woman leader to many, many other women leaders and people who will be women leaders, my first advice is to be the leader you want to see. Do not think you have to grow a thicker skin. I am all for thin-skinned, empathetic types who build consensus instead of chucking rocks. Do not think you have to be a strong woman. What is one of those anyway? Does anybody know? Strong woman. It is the 21st century version of a rule that has bound us for generations that we may contribute only if we qualify. Movie makers, politicians, industry leaders, they all assure us that we can indeed have women in our media, in our democratic institutions, and in our businesses, just so long as they are strong. In movies, this usually means wearing some sort of corset. This idea of strong, it is so damaging, this male version of strong, which continues to limit our representation to a small and predominantly white, middle-class, non-disabled minority. Do not succumb to strong woman syndrome. And thus, we may hopefully sidestep imposter syndrome, the inadequacy that grips so many women, that prompts us to wonder whether we can, in fact, be brave. This is the one question I get asked more than anything. No, that's not true. The one question I get asked more than anything else is, what do you want? And I sort of say, I'm the leader of the Women's Equality Party. What do you think? But the second question I get asked a lot is, how can I be brave? I get asked this from so many people. I get schoolgirls writing to me. I get asked by members at branch events. I get asked it backstage by very famous people. I can't believe the kind of people that have asked me this. Let me tell you, it is easy to be brave in a world that is built to fit you. It is easy to be brave in a world where everything works for you, from the height of the handrails on the tube to the air conditioning temperature in your office, to the number of your toilet cubicles, to the pills you take at night for your impending heart disease. All of these things are shaped to your specific physiology in a world where you can move around in the day-to-day without fear, where you know that your voice will be heard. The world is not built to fit women. So if you are asking yourself, how can I be brave? You already are. Because you are preparing to make yourselves uncomfortable in a world that is structured to make sure that you always know your place. A big part of the way the world is structured to make sure we know our place is the media. It is the most powerful cultural tool we have. It sets out the framework for our achievements. It sets the bar on our potential. It tells the story of our lives and our experiences, and it presents those stories as essential truths. So when the media denigrates us, belittles us, objectifies and demeans us, it is both mirroring and buttressing a world in which women are unequal. The Women's Equality Party made equality in the media one of our 7 core objectives because achieving real equality for women requires cultural change. The power of the media has an impact on all of our other core objectives: equal education, shared parenting and care, equal pay, equal representation in business and politics, an end to violence against women, equality in healthcare. Positive and realistic representations of women's lives and experiences would make it easier and so much quicker to achieve all of these goals. Now, forgive me, I'm coming to you late. I'm going to say some stuff that you may have already heard. The Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media. Has somebody done this today? Yes. Skip. We see adverts that sexualize women. We're teaching little girls very early on they'll be judged by their bodies. Fashion and beauty photography that shows women with an unhealthy BMI. I could give an entire speech on the impact this has on women and girls. Every single one of us, from all the women in this room who skipped lunch to the 7-year-old girls in British schools who now worry about their thigh gap. We're used to watching TV content in which, as women, our lives are limited to the girlfriend or fodder for serial killers. In which black women are very few and always angry. Single women are always drunks. Disabled women are always helpless. As Cindy was saying, this is all linked to the people making the decisions. And there's no way I'm going to finish in 1 minute. Forget that. I've only just got here. So women, as we know, make up nearly half the media industry in the UK, occupy only a third of senior. I'm sure you've all done this, so I'll skip all of that. So listen, equal representation in the media. It starts with equal representation on boards. It starts with quotas. They work. Reject all the myths about them. As though opening the doors to talented women is some sort of rigging system. But hiring one woman to your all-male team so you can say you've got one isn't. Explode sexist ideas of meritocracy in institutions dominated by white men who say things like, I just want the right person for the job. And then hire people who look and sound just like them. It always amazes me how advertising manages to pass itself off as being risky and creative. It's so not. As leaders, and you are all leaders either now or in the future, please bin the thinking that women need mentors to get ahead. You are brilliant. You know exactly what you're doing. Get mentors for the men who don't see that. Simon, we've got you a mentor. It's going to teach you how to get out of the way. You know Simon, right? There's somebody there really. Close those appalling pay gaps. JWT London, 44%. What is going on in there? What kind of business are you running if the disparity of earnings between men and women is so enormous? Look at your parental leave policies. Look at your flexible working policies. Are you paying part-time workers the same hourly rate as full-time workers? And if not, why not? How are your diversity policies interacting with your promotion policies? Are you hiring equal numbers of female screenwriters? Are you changing the stories? Are you paying attention to the sex and the intersections of inequality? Race, class, disability. Pay attention to every single role. Scrap all media portrayals that perpetuate ideas that men can't change nappies. We've been giving them that excuse for far too long. Finally, do not ever, ever accept opportunity parceled out in little bits to keep you quiet. Do not accept the argument that any of this is too hard. I get that a lot as well. Women's equality. It's going to take about 100 years. Many, many focus groups. We're just going to sort out Syria first. Your success lies in your ambition. Sisters, look at the women around you. Take a good look. No, do it. No, you have to actually do it. Look at the... It's okay, I'm not going to ask you to, you know. Those women are not your competitors. They are your sisters. And the strength of your resistance is in your linked arms. That's my mom. Last point, get political. For God's sake, get political. Join the Women's Equality Party. No, really. Let's make these changes everywhere. Do not go along with politicians who expect you to keep waiting in line on the proviso they will get to you eventually. Change always, always comes from the outside. You have so much more power than you think you do. We are all equal at the ballot box. And it is an absolute honor to be doing this work with you. Thank you very much.